everybody, and welcome to my first Samantha Kelly show on LinkedIn Live. And I'm really happy to have my first guest, David Meath, with me here today. And David is helping me launch this. So thank you, David, for your time.
Not at all. Pleasure, Sam. Thank you so much. First guest now, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, not at all. No bother to you. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself for people who don't know you.
Sure thing. My primary career was always as an academic. I looked at the science and psychology of how teams achieve great things, how small changes in the way that we think, act, and behave can help move the needle on the results that we get. That led me into having a TV show on the BBC for about 7 years. If you haven't seen it, I want you to know that that is deeply offensive to me, watched by nearly 12 people every single week. And in it, I look at the science and psychology of how we think these days, though. All of my work is delivering keynotes. I have about 15, 20 flights a month. Don't tell Greta Thunberg, she'll be furious. We are offsetting them, but we know that that's not cool. So all of my work is traveling and flying. Next week, I'm in Philadelphia. Last week was Mexico City. So my job is to show teams and organizations how they can achieve high performance through science and research.
Excellent. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So if anyone is watching and you would like to ask a question, just put a comment into the comment section because we are here and we're live. So you could feature on our screen on the first Samantha Kelly show as well. Actually, you mentioned Philadelphia there. I'm connected. I'm in the Irish Chamber in Philadelphia, so I must actually let them know that you're going. Is it an internal?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's internal for a pharma company, but drop me a line and let me know for sure because I'm back and forth there all of the time. Philadelphia is a real hub of businesses. Not sure why. Lots of tech are there, lots of software, lots of SaaS, and lots of pharma as well. It's as if they decided it's just far enough away from New York to be affordable to live there.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, it's like having your business in Wexford from Dublin.
Exactly.
Sorry. Okay, so why is, so I would have thought that burnout or the skills gap would be the biggest underrated, like the biggest performance tool like that you could be working on. But you're saying that belief is a team's most underrated performance tool. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I spent months researching this for a Forbes article looking at the science and psychology of how what we believe really does come out in our performance. And from years of working with high performing teams, I've seen this pattern that the most powerful driver of success, it isn't skills, it isn't resources, it's the team's underlying belief in what's possible. And I noticed that this belief was often overlooked. Some leaders think that it's a bit airy-fairy, that this is new age, that this is about hugging a tree. I promise you it's not. For me, new age is only one letter away from sewage. There is a real science and an incredibly compelling research behind how our minds focus on success, and ultimately belief is the gap between what helps us believe what could be possible and what we actually do.
It's like years ago. Tell me the story about when you pitched to the BBC your show, for example. Like it was your belief that made it happen.
Absolutely. I remember I had got it into my head. I had been an academic for years, really fascinated in the psychology of how we think at work. And I convinced myself that, do you know what, this would make a good TV show. And I remember at the time talking to my mom and saying, Mom, I'm going to go and ask the BBC for a TV show. And she said, no, don't do that. What if they say no? And in my head, I remember thinking, well, what if they say yes? So unbeknownst to her, I went away, not knowing anything about TV. I got producers, researchers, writers, directors, and a whole camera crew, shot a pilot, did this myself, went to the BBC, knocked on their door, and believe it or not, as quick as you like, they said, yes, I got the show. It was commissioned so easily. And I remember at the time then being so excited, I went back to my mom to tell her, raced through the back door and said, you're not going to believe this. I know you told me not to ask the BBC for a TV show, but I did it anyway. And they said, yes, I've got my own show. And she said, what if they don't give you a second season? And I remember thinking, please let me have this. And it goes to the heart of how we act and perform inside teams. I genuinely do believe that we often convince ourselves that the odds are stacked against us, that won't work in our region, or that this quarter is the toughest quarter. So of course, we're only going to perform X, Y, Z. Yeah. Well, if I had that belief when I rocked up to the BBC to get my TV show, if I convinced myself, well, I've never been on the box before, no one will know me, I've got no profile, that will have come out in the way that I communicated what I wanted to communicate. So whether you're in sales, sales or you only have internal customers in your role, as cheesy and as nauseating as it sounds, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and it's like even us doing this show, the Samantha Kelly show, because I was thinking I'd love to do like a business type thing where I can interview business owners, and I could do it in LinkedIn. What will I call it? And I was thinking, and I made it so complicated. I went, you know what? I'll just call it the Samantha Kelly Show, and just keep it simple. But belief is so important, especially I have a lot of entrepreneurs in my network and business owners, and I think that belief that, sure, look, you know, I might as well just do it. No one else is doing it. I'll do it. So and how I got leaders watching this, like how might leaders unintentionally damage belief?
Well, it is something that I see time and time again. I attend about 150 conferences a year to deliver keynotes, and I'll often see a CEO or a CSO, a chief strategy officer, standing up and giving their giant big state of the nation. These are the 3 pillars that we need to look at across the next year. These are the 2 financial targets that we need to hit. And often that can feel like a real buzz inside the room. Big LED screens, fantastic pyrotechnics go off whenever they talk about these big objectives. But then ultimately that needs to cascade around the rest of the business. And what you find is that there is a very real and authentic fear and vulnerability in the middle of the organization, because ultimately it's that middle management level that needs to roll this out. And while on the main stage they might be saying, this is what our big goal and target is, we can do it, if that middle level doesn't believe in the road ahead, if they don't believe in that roadmap, then ultimately that will never cascade into results. And it's really closely linked to the science of the placebo effect, because the extent to which we believe in something, whether or not we've got the skill for it, the salary for it, or the right environment, that belief massively alters performance. There are so many examples of the placebo effect in medicine, of course, that we've heard of before, but in management too. If we convince ourselves that the odds are stacked against us, all we'll do is look for the moments and the evidence to confirm that expectation.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking from a female perspective. Do you think this isn't in the plan, by the way? Do you think men believe more than women?
Well, it was brilliantly covered by what in the book, Sheryl Sandberg in the book Lean In. She said that men are up to 4 times more likely to go for a job that they are inexperienced and unqualified for, but women are dramatically less likely. Now, of course, we've got a lot of questions to answer on that societally. That's a problem that we've all manifested in the corporate world. That's absolutely a problem that men and leaders of every type need to answer to. But yeah, for sure, I mean, it goes to the heart of who we are. It's sort of in our veins to believe X or Y, and
Yeah.
our job is to make sure that we're intentional about it. Now, I don't want to get into religion, obviously, but we were all sort of born into a belief structure of some sort. We often don't really question it, and while that
Yeah.
that can be true for religion, but of course it can be true for whether or not we think we're good at sports, whether or not we think we're numbers people, whether or not we think we're good at public
I,
speaking.
I'm not
We
numbers person. No.
Well, so you say, but we've got to be really careful about how those beliefs actually set our results.
Oh, it's so true, isn't it? And I think, I don't know if it's the older I get or what, I do find that belief thing is so important. And how my businesses, like, I know you use role play sometimes, or you encourage leaders to use role play to encourage resilience and higher achievement. But like, I would feel silly doing role play, but give me some examples of the kind of role play you're talking about.
Well, I'll give you an example from research that's really fascinating. And it was carried out by someone who should know what they're doing. It was in the Harvard Business School. And what they wanted to test was the power of belief in role play in performance of any kind. And what they did was they got a bunch of people into a room, told them they were going to participate in a study, but they didn't know what the test or the exercise was. They
Right.
were divided into 3 groups. One group was told to repeat over and over again, just for a couple of minutes, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. That was group 1. Group number 2 needed to repeat over and over again, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm nervous and anxious. And group number 3 was the control group. So they didn't repeat anything at all. So then they were brought into the next room, and unbeknownst to them, what they needed to do was sing karaoke. They needed to perform songs that they did not know the words to. Now, I don't know about you. That is a fate worse than death. I would run at 1,000 paces. I would call in a bomb scare or pull the fire alarm immediately. But anyway, this is what they did, and the results were extraordinary. The group that told themselves, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, they dramatically outperformed every other group in terms of remembering the words, in terms of performance, in terms of vocal clarity, and they were just better at doing it, even though they were divided randomly. Now, this has a really strong message for any of us. If we're going into a sales pitch, if we're going into a job interview, if you're a leader and you're approaching, let's say, a CFO to get funding for something that you know will help your team do their best work, our job is to be intentional about that belief that we have. And while that type of role play, telling yourself over and over again, might seem a little embarrassing and awkward, when you see the results of it, it's absolutely worth that awkwardness. If this was either a performance enhancing drug or a training program that you could take, it would be the most profitable drug or training program in the world. That's how big the results are.
That's amazing, and well done you on the article. I saw the article in Forbes, so well done you. Like I mean that's really cool. Like you know your stuff, you know what you're talking about. Do you get much pushback from leaders about doing this kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. And look, I think I'll go into organizations, some really large. I've worked with places like Apple and Harvard, New York Stock Exchange, but equally, my home is still Ireland, though most of my work is travel. And sometimes when you go into a smaller organization, they often convince themselves, well, that wouldn't apply to us. It's easy that you talk about that at Meta and Facebook, but here in Cork or here in Wales or here in Scotland, that wouldn't apply to us. But actually, that is that's ultimately why I'm there, to talk to them, to help them understand that if we shift and adapt these beliefs, now I'm not necessarily saying in a big way, but in a small and incremental way, it can make a really big difference. And I think it's really important that we're willing to have conversations about this, because a separate piece of research that I didn't talk about in the Forbes article came from the University of New South Wales and all the way over the other side of the world. Really fascinating research. And what they found was there is this thing in organizations called a bad apple effect. And I know that sounds a bit pejorative, but it really is true. If you have one person in a team of 7 or 8 that is a bit down in the mouth, that is a bit of a misery, that is a bit of an ER from Winnie the Pooh, that no matter what happens, they're always a bit tired, they're always a bit grumbly, they always convince themselves that, oh, well, we tried this before, sure, we had a strategy one time. Honestly, we've all seen them, we've all worked for them. And look, let's be honest, we might have been that person every once in a while in the past, we might have. Well, the science proves that having just one of those people in a team of 7 to 12, it lowers everyone's performance across the board. So if we do have, whether it's a leader or a team member that has that a voice of dissent, that skeptical voice, I actually think they should be listened to, because that's feedback and information, because that person who's outwardly talking about their objections, their fears or their concerns, we should be using that, because there are other people who might be thinking it but not saying it. We should use that as an opportunity to bring them with us.
Actually, I saw someone talking about that during the week. Yeah. And it is important, I think, to have that person there, because sometimes, well, I know for me, my husband brings me back down to earth a lot.
He sounds lovely.
I need him, and just another example, maybe give me another example of belief boosting. So let's say someone's watching this now and they actually have a team meeting today and they want to kind of do something, maybe just experiment with what you're talking about. Is there anything you could give them to do, little exercise?
One of my favorite activities that teams can do involves a piece of research called the Batman effect. And now stick with me. I know it sounds very, very strange, but essentially it is a type of role play. The Batman effect allows you to take on an empowered persona. So at its most logical extreme, you might imagine, well, if I was Batman, how would I take on this challenge or opportunity? How would I respond to it? What they essentially did is they got individuals to imagine that they were either a superhero or a rock star or a a huge sports athlete, to think about that while taking on a challenge. And the evidence showed, and the psychologists proved, that when you take on that persona of a Batman style character, your results dramatically improve. And we think that what happens is it helps you lean into the discomfort of it. But of course, we don't need Batman running a solicitor's or a law firm in Dublin or Finglas. What we really need is to ask ourselves, how could we apply this if we've got a management meeting today? Well, it's really easy. All I would ask you to do is, whatever your industry is, I want you to think about who is the absolute rock star, who is the person that is leading at the very top end. If you're in technology, you might consider a Steve Jobs type character, but then also consider who is the antithesis of the behavior that you would like to embody. An example might be, and let's not get political, but an example might be Elon Musk, for instance. Then also go with someone that is beyond the pale at the most extreme levels, that is not even in your sector. By taking on these roles, like a Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, then a third or a fourth person that is unrelated, and looking at the challenges and opportunities that you're facing today through those lenses, it allows you to take a much wider approach to examine what is our strategy, what's good about it, what's wrong about it. If Tim Cook was to criticize it, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, what would they say? If they were to celebrate it, what would they do first? This allows you to distance your people from self-doubt. It allows them to run towards challenges, allows them to act with more courage and determination, and ultimately allows them to do better work.
Do you know what we should have a mug? We should get a mugs made for Christmas, David, with what would David do?
Oh, I tell you what he would do. He would have another Red Bull for his breakfast, because that's how I started the day.
I love this. I love this. Thank you so much. Is there anything you have coming up that's exciting that you'd like my audience to know about?
Well, I've got a brand new Forbes article coming out soon. It looks specifically at how personality is changing in the workplace, so please keep an eye out for that. Come and follow me on LinkedIn. I post stuff about the science and psychology of high performance every single day, and perhaps I'll catch up with you all again soon. But if you are booking a conference or a sales kickoff and you need a speaker with an annoying nasal accent, give me a call. I'm very available.
I love it. And actually, just to make a point as well, David, of you and I, like, we actually don't know each other that well, folks, but we met on LinkedIn, and I was watching David's posts and I liked what you were putting out there. So well done. And that's the kind of person I want in my circle, is people who are actually, you're adding value all the time. You're helping others. You're giving great tips. So just a little tip for people watching, you know, people are watching, aren't they, David? People are watching all the time.
Do you know, it's such a great example. I've really started to take LinkedIn very seriously, Sam, and I've known your work for years. I've seen you speak at many, many different conferences all across the world. Always enjoyed your content, but a brilliant example came up last week. I post every day, and I put a lot of work into the research of it, because I don't just want to post nonsense. I don't just want to post a quote on a billboard. You know, I really want to think about what I'm doing, so that my audience could get something out of it.
Yeah.
And I got a call last week with a pharma company, and I had never heard of them before. So many of these businesses are massive, but they have names that I don't even recognize, never mind able to spell. Got onto this call with this person, and she said that, hey, I've been really enjoying your content. We've got an event coming up in what was it, February sometime in North America. We'd love you to come and keynote speak. Now, I want to be clear about this. This person has never actually commented on any of my things, never liked it. Now, she does follow me, but she has never engaged at all. However, she is still watching all of the content and still decided, I want him at our sales kickoff. So for anyone out there who is commenting on LinkedIn and not getting the engagement that you hope, I can assure you the lurkers are out there. They're still taking in the content, and it's a really important lesson. If you hadn't have been doing your stuff on LinkedIn and I hadn't have been doing mine, then we wouldn't be here now.
Exactly. That's a fact. We would not be here now. And Yvonne has said, I've seen David live several times before, and he's excellent.
Oh, bless her. That's a tattoo waiting to happen, Yvonne. I'll get it made up shortly.
Thank you so much, David. And it's davidmead.co.uk. Thank you so much for joining us and joining me for my first Samantha Kelly show.
It's a real pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.